Hi, welcome back to Intro to Clinical Anatomy 1. I have a kind of a different set of slides here as an introduction. This is not anything necessarily for study purposes, but it's more for information. So, a number of years ago, I had someone take me to the Royal Ontario Museum for a Valentine's thing. And went to the museums, was walking around, came across to the areas of the dinosaurs. And while I was looking at the skeletons of the various dinosaurs, I had a bit of a revelation. And I was quite surprised that some of the things that I actually saw led me to start thinking about teaching anatomy about humans. Excuse me, we tend to think that we're relatively unique. We tend to think that through evolutionary design, we have become something that is never been thought of before or is uniquely different. When in fact, that's absolutely wrong. So I decided to take a few pictures of these skeletons just for a little brief introduction here and to start to realize that the things that we find inside of us, in this case skeletal, they've been designed and redesigned for millions of years to sort of become some of the things that we have. There are somewhat variations, yes, because we may be looking at a quadruped versus us as a biped, but ultimately some of the structures are extremely similar and yet are, in some cases, millions of years old. So you'll see here, for example, this individual, the creature, it decided to wear its bones quite a bit more on the outside, probably had a layer of skin. And you can imagine the kind of musculature that was required to carry this kind of weight wouldn't have been that great. But the reason he has it there is so that some dinosaur can't come along and just take him in one big bite. Has to get through these sort of bony structures. So to get another side of him here, again, you can just imagine how much this creature would weigh. We see here something, I believe it's a triceratops. There's a term that I use in class as well quite often. It's called structure governs function. Everything you see that is part of anatomy of any animal, it is there for a reason. And it governs the function of the animal. So a lump on a bone may offer protection if it's a spike form. A hole in a bone is there to make a bone lighter, which makes it easier for the individual to carry themselves, and on and on and on. So you'll see in this particular picture, the Triceratops has a couple of things. This big fan behind its head with all the spikes, that would be all for protection. So for whatever reason, evolutionary design decided that putting all these spikes in would protect this animal and help it live longer. What I want you to take note of also as well is the big hole in the head and the face. That's not damaged bone, that's actually probably a sinus, and we'll get back to those in one of the other pictures here shortly. You'll see here that these big holes represent these sinuses, and they're all about making this bone lighter so that this creature can keep its head up to some degree. We have exactly the same thing. We have sinuses in our skull, which make our head lighter, which makes it easier for us to carry ourselves around. So you see the beginnings of things that were designed and have been carried on, and not just with us, but other animals as well, for millions of years. Teeth is another thing that structure governs function. The type of teeth a creature has discerns whether it was a omnivore, a carnivore, or an herbivore. And you'll see that this type of tooth pattern, likely this was obviously a meat eater, not a plant eater. We look here at the limbs, we'll see that there are two bones on either side. Two bones here as well, one in the back legs, one in the front, which would be the arm for us, and the back leg for us, or the legs for us. We have exactly the same thing. We have, in the forearm, we have two bones, the radius and the ulna. And we also have the tibia and fibula in the leg bone. So as I said earlier, you start to see that the design of who we are is is not new. It's been around for a long time. This is the spine of a dinosaur. Almost looks exactly like ours, only on obviously an extremely larger scale. We have all these processes, all these lumps and bumps on our spine. This has two reasons for this. The first is protection. Obviously, these long spines will protect the spinal cord that's running in there, as well as all these projections of bones offer surface areas for muscle attachment. Again, the double bone in the foreleg, again, the same as us, the two bones. Another look at the sinuses here. Keeps the head lighter. You'll note the teeth are a lot different. This is an herbivore. This is a creature that would have eaten plants. Again, the teeth are slightly different. They're not as sharp and as elongated. This is a scapula, or shoulder blade, of a dinosaur. And ours is different than that, but similar in that it's a broad, thin bone for muscle attachment. And all the muscles that attach to this scapula relate to the shoulder joint in terms of its attachments and the influences on movement and so forth. Just another view of, we've seen the spine, again, a different type modeled scapula, but a scapula just the same. A rib cage like we have, the sinuses here again, and the nasal cavity and so forth. All adaptations that help the animals stay alive. But a smaller version, some more alterations, but still some similarities. The reason I show this is